Hi, welcome to Living La Vida Loco podcast. And this is a good start already. Straight away, usually we've got some shit at the start because we don't know what we're doing, but not drawing any attention to that whatsoever. I am Faz.
I'm Rich, still.
Yeah, good, that's fine.
Yeah.
And we have a very important guest with us this week, a VIP, if you will.
A VIP? We're doing acronyms now.
Isn't that like, is that what people say?
I mean, yeah, but we're in my living room. It's just sort of like, he's a mate. We're talking about him like he's not here.
Yeah, let's introduce himself. Well done.
Whoa, I've just arrived. Hi, everyone.
On the planet.
I might as well have done, to be fair. That went well. I am neither Faz nor Rich. I am...
You'll be glad.
What am I?
What am I?
Mineral.
James Haikers, whichever one you feel.
Haikers.
Haikers.
Is it? I think for me. I would only call you Haikers. Yeah. So, yeah.
Motion
James Haikney, Haikers.
Are we doing an awkward round of applause?
Yes, do one. We haven't done one for like weeks.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm honoured and appalled.
Yeah.
I'm appalled that we can get the timing right still.
Applaud. No. Okay.
It's too hot for this sort of shit.
I thought I'd get more.
From our live studio audience.
Yeah. I think you can add clapping.
They were both unimpressed.
I think you can add clapping to this, so I might. So, fuck you both.
Me too.
So, this week we are mostly going to be looking at Haikers' gaming life because we find it extremely interesting and we really love him as a friend, and he always has like some awesome hot takes on gaming, general life stuff. It always makes us giggle, and we're also
no pressure.
And we're also going to wade in a little bit on point and click games, because when we decided to invite Haikers into the pod, we said, well, what is it that we probably you've played the most, and that was one of the suggestions you had. And I'm going to be honest, it's one thing that I probably dabbled with when I was younger a lot, and actually I've recently played a couple of them as well. And I'm always really interested by these games, but I don't play them as often as I want to or should. So I'm happy to listen to what I should be playing on, and some recommendations around that. It's going to be a bit of a different pod, not sort of Vita and PSP locales, but I mean, to be honest, how many people actually listen for that? I mean, if we have a listener out there that's genuinely listening for us playing out old handhelds, it's I'd be impressed, to be honest.
I mean, if you are out there, hi, I guess.
What's wrong with you? Be better. So let's start the pod. We're talking about these amazing beers that Haikers has brought round, because these are a little bit different. Yeah.
That's the flaw.
It's all right, Rich. It's your house.
It's gone. It is like 28 degrees, so leave us alone. Haikers, talk us through what beers are we drinking and why are they so good?
I wasn't prepared for this one. This is the one I don't have notes for. So we are drinking beers from a brewery called Tap Social. They are a social enterprise that creates employment and training opportunities for ex-offenders. So all of the kind of the brewery employs either current or recently released people who've been serving custodial sentences. And basically, it's extremely difficult if you're coming out of prison to get jobs. So they make a point of employing people that are due to be released, so that they don't have a CV gap. And they've got. I had a lot of facts and figures from the guy I know who procured these beers, but I've forgotten them all. But essentially, they do very, very good work. They've got a variety of different styles that are all puntastic and named after prison concepts. So I'm currently drinking Cell Count, which is their American Pale Ale. It's just generally a nice company that does nice things, and so far the feedback on the beer seems to have been good.
Nice beers, yeah,
really good. Yeah.
I'll tell you what I've just noticed as well. The artwork was made by a prisoner as well.
It certainly was.
Nice touch.
Shout out to one of my neighbours and D&D compatriots, Ike, who runs runs the beer distribution network at our local thing, and that's not. I'm not even kidding. He
was-
has
yeah,
a limited company set up.
literally it.
To,
I was
to purchase them.
genuinely interested about this when you told us like where you got them from, because obviously you made it sound like it was quite a professional. What like a like you know your local friendly neighborhood beer man?
Yeah,
Here's sommelier kind of
pretty much. One of his rooms is taken up with drinks, and he literally, if you want something weird or obscure, because I live on basically like a hippie cult establishment in the south of Leeds. Shout out the CID. And it's
they're all definitely listening to this.
They will when
They
I
will.
tell them to.
Yeah.
Because we have groupthink and they are here with me. Possibly, but
By PSP. Groupthink. That's how that works. Got it.
Less PSP and more ESP. I think.
Yeah.
There we go. Ike is a fellow who runs basically a beer business, and I play with D&D with him every 2 weeks, and he orders in bulk beers, and every couple of months he runs a beer club. We get everybody down to either somebody's house when it's winter, or more recently we were down by the river, which was lovely, and you get a bunch of beers together. He will give you some tasting notes. Everyone gets drunk. You meet some of your neighbours. It's a good time.
Yeah,
Nice.
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's well good.
I think I'm too socially crippled for that to be actually good for me. But
And this is why I brought them here rather than bringing you to the beers.
thank you for understanding us.
I know this score.
They'll never come out of that room. We've actually never really left the room. We've been recording and then we sit there for a week and then record.
Yeah, it's starting to smell a little bit.
Yeah, I've forgotten what the sun looks like.
So, Rich. Hi.
Hello, sorry, I was mid-swig.
Yeah, no, got you.
Yeah.
So, point and click games.
Yep.
I'm confused as what they are. So, I need you to tell me what they are before we just start pummeling Haikers with questions for 50 minutes. I mean, because I was like, Worms. Worms is a point and click game. And you're both like, no.
You're wrong.
Yeah, which is fine. I don't mind being wrong. But I do point and click at things in Worms.
You do.
With, and then get holy hand grenades and stuff. What's not point and click about that?
But I mean, if you go down that path, then you're pointing and clicking at things in Call of Duty or something like that,
Yes.
So
point and click game also now then. It is in my...
Along with Windows XP. And
Excel.
Best Windows operating system?
This is going to be a quick question.
No, it needs thought. I think 95 had its charms.
It's up there for me, but I think part of that is teary-eyed nostalgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it weird to get nostalgic for an operating system? Don't answer
I
that.
don't think so.
I think it's fair.
I thought when 7 rocked around, everyone thought it was shit from then on. Is that not?
I mean,
true?
10's okay. Yeah. It's fine. It's grown on me. Because I'm forced to use it day in, day out forever. Vista is generally regarded as being awful, but again, I've got some good nostalgic memories of the chess game from that. I don't feel like I've ever used a laptop powerfully enough to have strong opinions about the operating system.
I've never actively hated an operating system.
No. I mean, I do get...
You.
I do get frustrated with the fact that no operating system nowadays will let you go in and tweak settings. And it's... actually, do you know what? When Microsoft jumped the shark is when the blue screen of death stopped giving you indecipherable alphanumeric characters when it went wrong. And just being like, you've experienced an error, the 862 radians or whatever. And started saying, oopsie, there was an error, sad emoji.
Yeah.
Jump in the lake. Thank you.
Tell me how to fix it, fucker.
You're about to suffer a defenestration error. So, yeah.
Fair enough, that's fine. Where were we? Point and click games. Yeah, point and click. What?
So
adventures?
That. Funnily enough, for me, that is the crucial word that you are missing from that is the adventure bit. So, for me, a point and click adventure would be quite narrative driven. You would be bouncing between locations, picking up basically anything that isn't nailed down in the vague hope that you can use it as either a sensible, B, completely batshit abstract, C, other answer to a puzzle or a conundrum. And then anything else after that are kind of variations on a theme for me, I think. Next question.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And what? I guess.
Well, yeah, no, I was just trying to understand in my head because, like, that doesn't necessarily clarify for me. So, like, what's the difference between, I guess, a point and click game and like a choose your own adventure game? Because I remember when I was growing up, like, school, for example, primary school. So maybe being 10 years old, for example, and the primary games that you'd play then would be choose your own adventure games, and it'd be like, you know, but then they were kind of, you know, that was when mouse, you know, like you get your mouse with the actual ball in it. That was the best thing ever. Like, you know, took that out and you're like, why does this feel so good? This mouse ball. And a lot of those games were like choose your own adventure, point and click. Is there a difference, or is it the same thing? Or
so, if you don't mind me taking this one, yeah. So if you want a real life example of what feel like the nearest thing you can get to a live action point and click adventure is an escape room. Right, so you're put into an escape room. There's usually some nonsense, like some nonsense pretext. You know, I think the most recent one I did is it's the ghost of the samurai, and you need to appease the ghost of the samurai by somebody giving you clues and telling you to go and solve all these puzzles. So it's not choose your own adventure. I'm not choosing, do I go through the left door, or do I go through the right door? It's linear, and you've got a story that you progress through, even if it is the samurai would like to get out of the room now. Not to go too far down.
That somehow sounds less dramatic when you put it like that.
It does. And yet it was fun. But yeah, so it's not like kind of choose, do you go in the left door and you get eaten, or do you go down the right door and you are free? Which are the only two choices in point and click, I'm fairly sure.
Yeah, that's fair.
That.
So for me, like quite the kind of modern equivalent. He says modern equivalent, like books have somehow died or something like that. Like there was the way I quite often come across that kind of choose your own adventure vibe is with like the kind of visual novel type things.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad you Haikers have touched on the escape room analogy, because you remember in the week, Faz, when I messaged you and was like, I want to talk about Grim Fandango, but I've just realised it's not actually point and click. Turns out on the Vita, it has touchscin controls, so technically, on a level, it is, which
along
is
with
really handy. In that massive pile of everything is a point and click game now.
Yeah.
But as my sort of backup, that I was going to sort of float as a kind of a spin on a point and click, I was going to talk about Virtue's Last Reward, which is like a sort of visual novel thing. So you're sitting through these dirty, great big long cutscenes, and then occasionally you'll have a kind of binary A or B choice. Yeah. Sometimes literally, with dirty, great big buttons and stuff like that. And this whole branching narrative. And that to me is more akin to the sort of choose your own adventure type approach. However, occasionally you will have these bits where you or a combination of people partaking in this quote-unquote game that the story's centered on are locked in a room, and you have to puzzle your way out and fight. So, and you have this bit that you can like tactile move your sort of view around the room and prod things to get bits of equipment or clues, and just work your way through. So it kind of meshes everything together. So the line gets blurry, I think, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, just thinking about a game that I've played recently, which is Pentiment, and I'll probably go into this a little bit more detail and stuff. That's like point and click, but there's not really too many discoverables. That is in, so you talk about objects like around, and I mean, it almost like it's very linear in a way. Now there are different ways you can go at the story, and therefore, like, you always get to the same end result, but like different people suffer different consequences, usually bad, medieval times, along the way, but there's not many pick-up items and things. Is that a prerequisite for, like, point and click? Like, as in, like, I'm trying to think, like, Broken Sword or Monkey Island, you need to collect things there, don't you, really?
I mean, in those ones, yes, absolutely. And, I'm sure we'll come on to Monkey Island in more detail, but in that one, it is a running joke how much stuff you can fit in your trousers.
Right,
it's, it's that kind of, it's a trope. And I do think, broadly, these are all we're talking a Venn diagram of stuff that all
Yeah.
crosses over with each other. You've got visual novels, which are more tend to be more. You call something a visual novel if it's more focused on the narrative than the puzzling part. You call something a puzzle game if there's no narrative at all and it's really just focused on solving puzzles for the sake of solving puzzles. Where they kind of meet is sort of your point and click adventures, where you do have a narrative and you're pursuing a goal, usually following your protagonist around. I say usually, probably invariably following a protagonist around and standing in their shoes. But to do so and to follow the narrative, you have to solve these puzzles. And item puzzles are the classic one. They're not the only one. And there's, we can come on to some really, really good examples of kind of different gameplay. But your classic 90s point and click adventure is typically inventory puzzles, which are pick things up, use thing with thing. Either other item or solving things through dialogue trees and things like that. If there's more of a heavy reliance on the dialogue, it tends to be visual novel. But broadly speaking, it's sometimes some games skip genres a little bit and do a little bit of everything. But broadly, if you're heavily relying on inventory puzzles, you're probably in a point and click type situation.
Yeah, it's funny you said 90s though as well. Like it feels like a 90s concept. Like I don't know why. But that just feels like the era of the height, if you will. And if you look at like the best reviewed like games now, it's funny what you said about Grim Fandango, Rich, because it's like if you go on to any what are the best point and click games, that's always on there. So why are you saying that it isn't? Well, that's what I mean. So because like why are they saying that it is or whatever? Like it's normally in like the top 3. So
this is where like it kind of gets a bit muddied because like on paper it is point and click because you are going around doing inventory puzzles. There are dialogue trees that may or may not lead to a solution. They might just be there for flavor, things like that. Very narrative focused and whatnot. For me, where it kind of stumbles into a grey area is that at least originally it was tank controls, so you were manually moving the character sort of to turn them left and right and then walk in a direction and things like that, and sort of interacting with the environment that way rather than this kind of omnipotent unseen hand manipulating things, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
I feel
all hail the unseen hand.
Yeah, there we go. I think I saw somewhere, and I'm gonna say it was in Wired, and I think they because I was googling around it because I picked up the Vita version again. Fun fact, by the way, I picked up my old save file, right? And I realised, oh shit, I must be quite close to the end of the game. I was one puzzle away from the end of the game when I put it down before.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so that was a fractured experience for me. And plus, I got to the end quite quickly this time.
That game was easy.
Yeah.
Like, I love to think that 5 years ago is something you were like, I'll come back to this in 5 years' time. Like, it'll definitely come to me.
Continued.
But so I was having doing a bit of homework around the Vita version and found out that it had touch controls, and that is more akin to a classic sort of 90s point and click approach. You press something on the screen, the character walks over, and then you get options and things like that. Seemingly, according to Wired, the PC version got modded with it in 2014 or something like that, weirdly late, and to the extent that looking at the dates, I kind of refuse to believe it took that long to get quote unquote proper point and click controls. But yeah, I think that was where it arguably goes into a slightly more broader sort of adventure bucket. Kind of like you were saying, Haikers, about the sort of Venn diagram of overlapping stuff. It's variations on a theme, really. I think if you're looking at your kind of purebred point and click ones, you're talking your Monkey Islands, your LucasArts sort of early to mid 90s classics, from which Grim Fandango was the kind of the evolution and the sort of step into something nearer 3D.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is in a bit of a murky area.
So let's, just before we talk to the resident expert, Haikers, about those 90s sort of LucasArts things, and you've been playing a few recently, haven't you? And
I've been reminding myself and revisiting.
So we are looking forward to hearing about that. But I couldn't stop thinking about adventure buckets after you said that. Do you remember? this just flashed in my head. Do you remember when you were a kid, like in the mid-90s sort of thing? Do you remember you used to go to the newsagents and buy like the bags that like, you know, like you use like a random like 99p?
Yeah, like the selection of tat bags.
Yeah, it was shite, but it was like great, and you didn't know what was going to be in there. That's what just the word adventure bucket made me think of that, and I think there should be like an adult equivalent of a bucket of shit that you kind of want, but you don't know you want.
The loot boxes, aren't they?
Yeah, I was going to say loot boxes in EA
yeah.
games, and in real life, if you've got more money than sense, you can go to Loot Crate as well,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
maybe going to sponsor the podcast.
I was thinking more along 99p scenario, but that probably would be $9.99 now, adjusting for inflation maybe. So a £10 loot box is as far as I'm going with this.
I mean, I'll tell you what I kind of miss, and talking about all this kind of stuff, are those books where you'd read like a page and then it would be like, if you do this, turn to page 34. If you do that,
Choose Your Own Adventure.
Exactly.
You have to call them legally. You have to call them Pick Your Path books because Choose Your Own Adventure is proprietary. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Shit.
I mean, you don't have to legally call them that, but you can call them whatever the hell you want because that's their trademark. But if you're making your own one, you can't call it a Choose Your Own Adventure book.
Huh.
There's been a few things, isn't there, Netflix recently, and like sort of, I guess it's choose your own ending situation. There's not like loads of stuff on it, but like, you know, maybe you get like 3 or 4 choices for a half an hour program for kids. But like, I think Oscar's done one of them recently, and like it wasn't fun particularly. I wouldn't say like, it didn't feel like you were actually getting to do much. Oh well.
No,
was there a Stranger Things or something as well?
There was a Charlie
Black Mirror.
Yeah, Charlie
Bandersnatch,
Mirror,
which is definitely stretching the definition of recent. I never finished that. Similar reasons to you. I didn't really feel like I didn't get into it. But yeah,
I'll tell you what I just thought of as well. Like, because it seems to me like that kind of choose your own adventure approach is if someone's making like a kind of quote unquote interactive movie, that's the way they're going to go.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me think of Until Dawn and stuff like that, where it's almost like you're playing a game that's almost trying to be an interactive movie, and you add in a couple of quick time events, and Bob's your uncle. Suddenly, it's a bit more of a game again.
Damn quick time events.
Yeah. So, I think the what's at the heart of this entire episode is the whole thing's a fucking grey area. I miss the Choose Your Own Adventure / Pick a Path / I don't know, Bobbin books. I've got a Legend of Zelda one somewhere in here.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, from when I was a kid.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah, humble brag.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
What a dickhead.
I genuinely was like, oh, I'm going to look for your books and steal that.
Quite the literary flex.
Some people have first editions of Tolstoy. Rich has a Choose Your Own Adventure Zelda book.
Hey, look, I mean, I'm still really super proud of like my Metal Gear Solid novel. But it's just like,
nice.
I've got a weird obsession with like sort of games that I've loved from like maybe PS1, PS2 eras, and then like, there's a novel, and it's like pretty much just the exact same game, but it's like written,
novelized.
Yeah, just like, you know, with a bit more like, you know, a bit more zest to sort of snipe a wolf's sniping.
Tells you what the cardboard box smells like. When you,
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Especially Metal Gear Solid as well, given the length of the cutscenes.
Yeah, it's so
Anyway.
basic. Okay, Haikers, tell us about point and click games, the best ones you've played. We're on for a ride. We're on for an adventure bucket. We are in your adventure bucket.
Click me silly.
Let me bring you into my adventure bucket. I don't know. Oh my goodness. Moving swiftly on. It's sort of, I guess, I'm extremely, cards on the table. I'm very biased in favor of point and click adventure games. I love them, and sort of similar to the genre itself. I didn't stop loving them. I just stopped paying attention to them, and then they've sort of come back, and we can come on to the reasons that that's happened. Because I was speaking to Rich before the pod, a little behind the scenes flavor there, just about some of the reasons that they went out of fashion, which are actually quite interesting. I've never really thought about. But anyway, if I think about my earliest memories in gaming, and it's. There's a few different games that come up, but one of the ones that is just always there is Monkey Island. specifically The Secret of Monkey Island when I was particularly young, but also LeChuck's Revenge, which is the second one.
Yeah.
Not long after that. We're talking, this is before PCs, this is Amigas. So for anyone younger than 30, Amigas, they were 85 feet tall. They weighed 760 tons, and they were sentient.
And flatten a building.
Yeah, and that's why I'm terrified about ChatGPT, because AI is back and we're all going to die. But we don't talk about that.
There's a fucking pigeon in the wall. What's going on?
Oh, the pigeon. Yeah, no. If they sit on top of the chimney, they can basically yell down it.
Is this a pitch cast? Is this what this is?
I mean, without wishing to go too off tangent, you remember in one of the other episodes I basically gave Gunstar Heroes a 10 out of 10?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
That's because the soundtrack ruined me. There's a boss that you fight which sounds exactly like the pigeon that sits on top of our chimney yelling down it.
And you gave it 10 out of 10 for that reason?
Well, not that reason alone. But, whenever I hear a pigeon now, I'm like, Gunstar Heroes.
But all wood pigeons sound the same.
Yeah, exactly. I which is why I think about Gunstar Heroes a lot.
Why are you so close to pigeons all the time? Like,
I don't know.
Too close to pigeons, if you ask me. I feel suspicious about
They
this.
seek me out.
Yeah. But they do. Sorry, Haikers.
I can't believe you want me to follow that.
Yeah. I do, because I need something to follow that. Freaked me out.
So,
Tom, I just fucking saw the pigeon out the window. No way.
There are multiple pigeons. I hate to,
yes,
hate
we
to
just
break the news.
discussed that.
It's not just one pigeon.
Welcome to Springwatch with Faz.
I saw a pigeon!
More than one!
I would listen to that podcast.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah.
It's coming up next.
More than this one currently.
That cuts deep, man.
I'm sorry. No, I mean this specific one that I'm currently derailing. So let's get it. Yeah, the year is 1990, and I am not old enough to play games. But like a few years later, on the Amiga, like Secret of Monkey Island was just it was one of the games that I remember. Like I was in primary school, and when it was drawing pictures, I was drawing pictures of the game. Like, so for anyone who is not familiar, which it may well be anyone who was born after, like, in the 90s.
Get out of this. Get out of this virtual podcast room. You're not invited.
So I looked at the analytics. There's actually relatively few of them listening to this.
Oh, thank goodness for that. That's
surprise.
So it's probably not going to come to anyone as if I just describe Monkey Island. Essentially, it is a 1990 Lucas. I think it was Lucasfilm and not LucasArts at that point.
Yeah. I think so.
Point and click adventure, and it was essentially you follow the protagonist, Guybrush Threepwood, which is just the best name in fiction. I will fight anyone who says otherwise. And he wants to be a pirate, and you follow him around, being slightly inept in a very good-natured kind of way, as he goes from wanting to become a pirate to sort of becoming a pirate to going and rescuing Governor Marley, who is essentially the princess in a tower that needs to be rescued. Except, unusually for the 1990s, she didn't need to be rescued. She had a plan all along that Guybrush cocks up by going and sorting his own plan. And then at the end they watch a ghost pirate blowing up over the island as they make quips about how the lesson that Guybrush has learned from his experiences: never pay more than $20 for a computer game. So it's and you can probably tell from that I haven't mentioned the gameplay once there. That's the plot. Also, sorry, spoilers for 1990. It all ends up okay, but it's one of those games that's just in my memory. It's there, it's around for years. I was kind of playing it without any idea what was going on, and I just loved it. I loved the setting. I loved the stupid things that you could make happen, and there's a lot of reasons that game is sort of in my mind. But like I came back to it recently when you said that you want to be on the podcast, which thank you, by the way. I assume that the reason I'm here is so that I will stop giving you the opinions in WhatsApp. So this is like
No, we want them to.
Okay.
We don't want you to stop them.
Oh, right.
That is in. Wow. They're the only interaction we have with the outside world, apart from the pigeons.
Yeah, and I've told Faz we need a backup in case I get hit by a bus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen Mean Girls, so you better watch yourself. And I think the
I find that so funny.
I'm just impressed.
More than once as well. Guess what?
Good film.
Yes, solid. Stop trying to make fetch happen. And also, I should have probably said at the start, thank you for giving me the opportunity to live every internet nerd's dream, which is to tell people who podcast that they are wrong to their face and they have to listen to me.
Excellent.
Which is great.
But then we will rebuke and say
no, I'll run before then.
Yeah. And I'm notoriously bad at rebuking. So
and on next week's pod.
Somebody else. Somebody else.
No, we want that. Like we were just saying before that we know, like, not that it's a bad thing necessarily, but like regularly we're just like, yeah, I agree too. Brilliant. Okay, well, I'm really glad we came to that conclusion.
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
not
actually
exactly
nice
spicy,
to have,
is it?
Yeah, not before hours.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So go on then. How are we wrong?
I mean, so far
Yeah,
you're 10
go
for
for
10 in terms of adventure games, apart from, suggesting that, I mean, Grim Fandango is a point-and-click adventure for weird reasons of like, it's sort of there.
Yeah.
But Call of Duty is not. Worms is not.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah,
that's
I mean,
fine. I'm glad we're there.
That's fine. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like dying on any hill about that.
No,
like, ironically, the worm that I was that always died on the hill, I wasn't dying on that hill.
Yeah. When you're standing on a hill, that's what you don't do in Worms.
Yeah.
But actually, we're on LucasArts, so I can't tell you what opinions you've got wrong.
Yep.
Rich, you were wrong about the Clone Wars. That is a terrible film.
Yeah.
Faz, you were wrong about Film 7. Like, I can't even remember its name because it's just a new
Film 7.
A New Hope B. What if it was?
What's wrong with that? How is that possibly how is that a bad thing to have? Oh, I've got a really, really good cake, and I've got a cake that's a copy of the cake that's pretty much the exact same cake, a little bit worse, like the character's a little bit worse. But so the character's being, I don't know, the icing, it's a vital part of the cake. This is going wrong. There's a lot of cake chat here. We don't have to concentrate on the cake.
Let carry on.
Yeah,
He's digging his own grave.
I'm enjoying this because I feel like I got out of that pretty lightly.
I watched Clones the other day. Like, fuck me, it's so bad. Oh, God, let's talk about that.
I think if I never said it was great.
Wait, what?
I know it's awful. I just like it.
Okay, well, that's fair then, isn't it? Yeah. So that's valid. Yeah. Where maybe I'm not valid, that's fine.
No, you are objectively wrong.
Some of it, honestly, mine's not even like a kickback necessarily. I just don't think it's that bad. Like, and everyone's like, oh, it's a bad film, and I'm like, it's not that bad.
It's not a bad. Well, I mean, I think it's a bad film, but
because how can it possibly be bad if A New Hope's good? Because if it's just a copy,
because it's retreading.
Yeah, exactly. The whole industry lives and dies on creativity, and that film
demonstrates
very little.
The industry's shit, then, isn't it?
Yes, but that doesn't excuse the film that produced that was produced by that industry. It might explain it, but it doesn't excuse it. And I don't have to pay whatever normal human prices for cinemas are, which I know. Tell
me what this right. What is your most local cinema to you?
Kirkstall View.
So I do know how much it is for a film at the moment.
I'm going to say £8 for an adult.
That's not bad. Yeah, it is exactly $7.99.
So when you say not bad, that's
check out, mate.
Right.
Well, they change it sometimes, but yes, that is how much it is at the moment. So well done, you.
So that gambit backfired.
Good.
Right.
Right. So this is why I'm not going to tell you. Yes, Lucasfilm.
That's fine. That's okay. Yeah, I can take it. Episode 7, again, not dying on the hill, so it's okay.
When Lucasfilm still knew what it was good at before it started retreading stuff. And let's be clear, like, this is, when I'm talking about Monkey Island, it's like, there is nostalgia, and there's undoubted nostalgia there, but I went back and I played it again. They have released a special edition, which you can, like, they have fancy graphics, they have voice acting, which you can turn off with F10, which I did. Back to the verb prompt menu, which is wonderful. I got annoyed that Monkey Island 1 like reduced the number of verbs to just the ones you need. I quite liked in the 90s that it had like verbs that you didn't need. So, like, again, to explain to those who are less familiar with point and click, the kind of the classic 90s one is you had a list of, certainly in LucasArts ones, you had a list of verbs. So it was like, if you imagine a step up from the text-based adventures when it's like, you see ye flask, ye cannot get ye flask, to butcher a naughty's pop culture reference there. It had verbs that you could click on, so pick up, or push, pull, turn on, and they were all ones that, like, you even needed some of them. Talk to, for example, walk to, that kind of stuff. And if you would click on one of those, you choose what you wanted to do, and you click on the thing in the visual environment that would let you do it. So, pick up gopher repellent. That is a thing that happens in Monkey Island. You need gopher repellent because you're going to to be a pirate. You might need to repel gophers.
That's fine.
And guess what? You need it.
You made it so I had such a bad experience with gophers for about 3 years in a game.
It's excellent. I love it. But going back to it, like genuinely, one of the things with let's take a step back and kind of, if text-based adventures is a good place to start, because they were notorious for being, it was all text-based, and it wouldn't tell you what was there necessarily. You'd have to sort of second guess it. And part of this was computing limitations, right? It's that you can't have something that deals with all of the potential things that you might want to do. But I was playing one, I can't remember for the life of me the name of it. It's widely regarded as the first one that came out in the 70s. It's called something like Dungeon Quest or something wonderfully generic like that.
That checks out.
It does, yeah. Don't Google it. I'm definitely right. But that's one where simple things like looking at something, it'll just be like, what you trying? I don't understand what you're trying to do, or like walk in this direction, climb this thing. Oh, you can't. And I gave it a go just to see what life was like back then, and I couldn't tell if I was just getting really unlucky with a random number generator when I was fighting a goblin, or whether I was just doing the wrong thing. It was like there's no feedback whatsoever. It was literally. You have the axe, and it's like, fight goblin. It's like, what, you want to fight the goblin with your bare hands? It's like, fight with axe. I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, use axe. What does use mean? Throw axe. You throw the axe, you miss the goblin. Throw axe, you don't have the axe. Pick up axe. And all this time, it's like the goblin is attacking and missing you, but eventually it hits you. Yeah. And then it's like, and you, I don't know, slowly bleed to death or something like that. So... really frustrating is the point that I want to get to. Like, and having like the visual ones where you've actually got the options, you can see what's there. There's nothing hidden, because those ones were infamous for having things hidden that you wouldn't know about unless it was like, you're in a house. It's like, why didn't you talk to the woman? It's like, you didn't tell me there was a woman there.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Whereas you can't do that in a visual one, and it's much better. And also Lucasfilm, and I think this was I don't know if it was the first one ever. Almost certainly wasn't the first one ever, but it was the first successful adventure game that had a design philosophy of you would never be able to get trapped. There's no lose state.
That is so satisfying to me.
Yeah.
That is why games, I guess that you say it's like, like the first one ever, so therefore it's been built on, but there'll have been many a game since then that you get trapped in things and you're like, fuck you, like, is that meant to be having fun?
Yeah.
Like, you're ruining
100%.
My day.
Not like that, but like, I tell you what, you just talking about the sort of text-based adventure.
Great British text-based.
Would watch.
Bake scone. You do not bake the scone.
I'm trying.
The scone attacked you.
So that, believe it or not, it's still relevant to my point. I'm struggling to think of a point-and-click adventure that has much in the way of like actual combat. Like there's always a way of like resolving your conflicts around it, scone-based or otherwise.
How wholesome.
Gonna give you a footnote to that.
Yeah.
A couple of counterpoints. One of them is another Lucasfilm one, which is the Indiana Jones series, which does have a combat mechanic.
Aha, right.
And people are on the internet are very, very aggravated about the combat mechanic. I think the second one, they perfected it, but the first one is tricky, because most of a point and click is cerebral. You've got time to think about things, you've got time to click on things, but the point and click is literally, you use the numbers, and to like... It's Indiana Jones, and you've got to put your hands like up, medium, or down, and you've got to jab and hit and block. It's actually quite tricky, and it's two completely different things, and it's quite jarring. It's like
that sounds like a fighting game, just like crowbarred in.
Yeah, so it's a puzzle game, like a LucasArts Monkey Island puzzle game that you talk to people, but it also has fighting in it. I gave it 30 minutes, and I was a bit like, I'm going to go back to Monkey Island.
Yeah, fair.
And the second footnote I'm going to put on is that this is another one of the reasons that I love Monkey Island, is because they were just like, literally in the development process, they were like, it's pirates, so we need sword fighting. Mm-hmm. And they came up with, you know what I'm going to say.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
So Faz, if I said, If we were in combat and we were fencing and we're evenly matched, and I tried to get the upper hand on you, and I said, soon you'll be wearing my sword like a shish kebab. How would you respond to that? And I would get the upper hand on you because you don't have a response to that. So Monkey Island had something called insult sword fighting, which is one of the most famous mechanics in a point and click adventure that is not picking up items. And it's literally, instead of combat, they had basically a dialogue puzzle, which is you had to learn the responses to insults, and you would kind of sword fight, and then there'd be a gap in the fighting.
Yeah.
And either you or they would trade an insult. And if you came up with a witty retort, you would get the better of them. And if you didn't have the answer for it, it's brilliant.
It's very
really
Flynn
clever
as well, and like all the proper old school pirate films.
It feeds into
swashbuckling and
my name is Inigo Montoya. That kind of thing. And that was, even as a kid, I loved that because it was even stupid stuff like so. Just to put you out of your misery, the correct response to that soon you'll be wearing my sword like a shish kebab is. Do you know this?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
First, you better stop waving it like a feather duster.
Okay,
which is one of the weaker ones, but they.
I mean, you remembered it, so
you fight like a dairy farmer.
Something involving a cow.
How appropriate! You fight like a cow.
That's the one.
Yes. Yeah.
I knew this would happen in this pod, where I would start to watch you both.
Right, the worst bit is that as soon as he started talking about it, it's like, he's going to fire him at me. Fuck, what have I got? What have I got? What can I remember? There's one about a cow. Damn, what is it? I haven't got it. Okay, that's fine. I'm just going to have to take that hit.
This slides into every single pod where I'm just impressed by people who can remember things from games really well, and I go, wow, that's really cool. Because the thing is that it's been impressed upon you for forever. That game mechanic, it must have been excellent. Do you know what I mean? It must have been such an important.
It is really clever how they put it together, because you do have to explore the whole island, if I remember rightly, to work out these phrases and things like that. And even then, you've got to be able to recall them in the duel.
Yeah.
So it is satisfying.
Yeah. And then they twist it up, because one of the things you need to do to become a pirate is you have to defeat the Swordmaster. But you're not allowed to you're not allowed to even fight the Swordmaster. She just says, go away, until you've actually... And that's another thing for early 90s, by the way. It's like the Swordmaster... Apparently this was a twist. Maybe part of the reason I've politically grown up the way I did was because I grew up with this. But it's the Swordmaster is a woman. It's yeah, of course she is.
Yeah.
Which apparently was unexpected at the time.
Yeah, that's insane, isn't it? But then
but it's
insane now, isn't it? But
But
then it's insane to think that 30 years ago, that is oh my god.
I don't know if it was that level, but it was definitely
game.
It was in terms of representation, and again, it's not a princess in a castle. It is oh, for goodness sake, get out of my way, you're ruining my plan. And you have to clean up your own mess at the end. It's quite progressive in that sense. They twist it up. So they twist up the mechanic. You've learned all of the insults. Then you go to the Swordmaster, and she is just okay, you can fight me now. And then she fires new ones at you that you've never heard before. But the responses that you've got are correct. But now you need to match your responses to new insults. And that one goes on much longer. And that's genuinely. I played that again a couple of days ago in advance, and some of them I was slightly tense, being oh, is this the right one, or have I just not learned the right one? I think this is right. And then you can see visually, because it's they duel and they go forwards or they go backwards depending on who's winning, and it was really satisfying when I got it right. So that's one of the...
Is that the first game? Sorry,
that's the first game, which was released in 1990.
I was going to say, because that's I know my usual time of the week where I go, that's on Game Pass. And then the remaster, remake. Wait,
Special edition.
Oh yeah, that's last week, wasn't it?
Don't go down the hole. Because look at this, because I've not listened to that pod yet. But yeah, I know. Anyway, remaster, remake. The HD version.
The special edition.
Yeah. So of that is on Game Pass, and I've got it there waiting to play. So, and I was kind of holding back because I was a bit I wanted to hear whether it was worth playing.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
I remember, and I was saying this before the pod, Haikers, that I remember I never owned Monkey Island when I was younger, but I remember going around to my friend's house and watching people play it, and that almost feels like you could always do that with these kind of games and stuff. Sit and watch over someone's shoulder while they're playing on the PC and stuff, and kind of get a concept of what's going on and enjoy the atmosphere of it.
Yeah.
Almost, I feel like more so with this type of game, because there's that story and, the jokes and sort of things like that, and it's slow paced so you can talk to your friends while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, kind of, sometimes you'd feel like, someone's playing, I don't know, a rally game, for example, and you feel yourself itching wanting to play because you're like, I want to be involved. Whereas in this, you're involved by being around it. Like, as in, you don't have to
You can talk to each other, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to be the person who's, pointing and clicking. You could just be watching that happening while you're having a general social
almost
time.
like telly or something like that, isn't
Yeah.
it? And I think especially with the sort of early Lucas games and like Tim Schafer and co, like the quality of the writing is just like top notch.
Absolute money.
Because like the sword fighting mechanic is a really, really good example of that, because like sure, mechanically it's inspired, I think is fair to say, and it's definitely memorable. But if the quality of the writing wasn't there for the sort of zingers that you're firing at each other, it wouldn't have had nearly the impact. But then that carries through the entire game, from what I can remember.
It does, yeah. They, like that kind of, and it's interesting because I didn't know this at the time, but when I was researching it, they had two lead writers on it, who would work with the main developer, Ron Gilbert. I keep saying Rod Gilbert because of the Welsh comedian, but it's Ron Gilbert.
That would be a turn up for the books.
It would. I mean, he'd be good. I think he would write a decent point and click adventure, although it would probably be less dramatic than sailing to the Caribbean. It would probably involve luggage and air traffic control or something. But I think you're absolutely right. And they had two different writers, one of which who was a bit more kind of like sarcastic and a bit more cynical and everything like that. And he did the darker scenes, which there are, like, you go to hell at one point. Again, spoilers for the 1990s. You like at some point you go to find the ghost pirate LeChuck's ship, and it's like actually quite a frightening hellscape if you're like for 90s pixel graphics. There's horrific hands coming out, eyes poking out the wall, and everything like that. And some of the like there's lighter humor, and there's a kind of like a different tone of humor there as well. And apparently they both like they had defined roles. It was like, you're the dark humor guy, you go and do that, and like you do this scene, and then this guy does this scene, and they kind of find a nice equilibrium there. But I think when you're saying looking over the shoulder and everything like that, I think part of my nostalgia for it was because my brothers, who were older than me and actually understood the puzzles, I just had a bunch of saves that even as, a 4 or 5 year old, I could go and click on the saves. I knew which ones had the funny bits that I liked, and I could go and do that.
Oh, yeah.
No fail states, so I couldn't mess anything up. I couldn't break anything. The worst I could do is save over something, but I wasn't going to have solved any puzzles. I was just going to be in a different place.
Yeah.
And I couldn't lock anyone into that position, because it used to be that like the King's Quest games were infamous for it, and it was almost childlike levels of like, you didn't know you can't push the rock from that side, you got crushed, so now you have to start again. And again, like talking to the writing, that's something that like there's a joke in the first Monkey Island where if you step in a certain place, the rock snaps and you fall to your death. Yeah. And it comes up with a thing. It's just like, ha ha ha, got you. I hope you've saved recently. And then he just bounces up and he's just like, oh, rubber tree. Because you can't, with one very big asterisk, you can't die in them. And the asterisk is that there's one that's essentially an Easter egg. There's a puzzle that is so easy when you're underwater. Like there's a joke about him being able to hold his breath for 10 minutes. And again, coming back to the sort of the self-referential humor of item problems, at one point you get thrown into the water, attached to a heavy stone item by a rope. And there's all these sharp things that you can cut the rope, but they're all out of range. And it's the solution to the puzzle is to pick up the big heavy rock that you were attached to, and then you are no longer attached to a big heavy rock, and then you can walk out. It does not take you 10 minutes to work that out, because there's only about 3 things you can do. Yeah. But if you leave that for 10 minutes, he drowns, and that's the only time that he can actually die in that adventure game. This is very deep dive, but never mind.
That is a very deep dive. Yeah. Oh, okay, just waiting for that one to sink in. Bring back the pigeons. Yeah. No. Yeah. Who can do the best wood pigeon?
I'm telling you, that Gunstar Hero soundtrack for that boss is exactly like this. Less like that.
Yeah. No. I think Haikers had it. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think he put it in. Don't even put the hard yards in.
I did phone it in a little bit.
Grow up in Scotland, you can roll your R's, and that makes all the difference.
That's probably true, isn't it? Yeah, that's probably true. So, whereabouts in Scotland did you wake up?
Wake up.
All right, red pill.
Jesus. Yeah.
What happened to you?
When did you wake up again?
Where were you grown? I was born in Edinburgh, Faz. If that's what you wanted to ask.
Yeah. Into the Matrix. No, it's that's fine. It's okay. Yeah, no, I just wanted to remind myself. That was a rolling of the R's there. This is going south quick. As you did.
In the accent said. Yeah.
Nailed it. Right. Okay, so we'll talk Monkey Island a bit. Is there a better point-and-click adventure game out there?
I mean, Monkey Island 2's in with a decent shout, but which came out the year after. I won't go too much into it. It was also extremely well received. And again, I've got very fond memories of it because, again, it came out in 91, so when I was extremely young, and back in the days of literally 14 floppy disks, and it was insert disk 13, to go to this island, and it was really frustrating. It's much better playing it on a PC, no load times, great. That was very good. It kept up the whole thing, and I was saying to Rich before the podcast, one of the few examples of a point-and-click adventure with difficulty levels. Because one of the, and probably a good time to come on to one of the reasons that the genre, people fell out of love with the genre, it was less that people fell out of love with it, and more that other technology made it a lot harder for point-and-click adventures to commercially work, which sounds ridiculous now if you look at the graphics, but thinking back to the early 90s, they're not very replayable, these games. If you, replaying Monkey Island, I play it for the humor. But if you look back at the the actual environments, all of the everything, it's so detailed. It's all pixel art. It's all hand drawn pixel art, and every puzzle has to be uniquely put together. Yeah. But by that point, you the mid 90s, you've got your Dooms, you've got your Quakes, you've got games like that, which is essentially, you don't have to, if you want to extend the gameplay there, you don't have to put together a new puzzle. You have to put together a new map. Yeah. With the same assets that you've used before, with baddies in a different configuration. And those are great games. They're extremely good games, but it's a lot easier to get a lot of unique gameplay out of those than it is out of point-and-click adventures. Yeah. So commercially, you couldn't really do them after the 90s. So they disappeared. And actually, there's been a bit of a resurgence recently because of how easy it is to, how accessible platforms like Steam are, how easy it is to publish your own as an indie developer. And there's a lot of labour of love games out there that I would recommend. Just before I move on to kind of newer games, I would definitely give some honourable mentions to some of the other ones. One game that I played very recently that had been talked about endlessly online that I hadn't ever played is Loom. It's another Lucasfilm one. Okay. Point and click. I think it was either pre or the same time as Monkey Island. There was a joke in Monkey Island with one of the characters kind of crossing over. He has a badge on there that says, "Ask me about Loom." And when you do, it flashes up on the screen, just advertisement, as he keeps saying, go out and buy Loom today. Tell all your friends about it. It's great. But I finally played Loom because it was on sale on Steam. And the
advert worked.
It worked. It worked. It was, it took 30 years, but it worked.
Got there in the end.
A long payoff.
I imagine every time Ron Gilbert and possibly Rod Gilbert as well are just there, yes, got another one. But yeah, it did work. And then playing that, it's quite a short game, but again, it's a great example of what I love in games, which is creativity in the gameplay mechanics. So point and click adventure, we talked about inventory puzzles. This does not have an inventory. This does not have verb buttons. You can't interact with things. The way you interact with things is you have a stick, and that stick has musical notes on it, and you learn combinations of musical notes, and the right combination of musical notes will cast spells on things. Okay. So, for example, you can there's a spell that you learn that will transmute straw to gold, and then that will help you solve puzzles in certain situations. I played this without a manual. I tried to access the manual on Steam, but it wouldn't work. And I tried to just, like, it was a really nice experience just working out that mechanic for myself, because it doesn't tell you it. It's not, you know, you've spoken before about tutorials and games and you know, to a certain extent, you know, and I think I said to both of you, actually, when I was playing this, it's like, it reminds me that games used to expect you to write stuff down.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to remind you. It's not in a menu. It's not sat there being like, oh, you learned this thing, which is Strata Gold. If you don't remember it, then tough tatties.
There's a reason there's a notes section in the manual.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it was great. And then, like, the sense of achievement that I got when there was something where I needed to wake someone up, and I realized, hang on, I know the spell for putting someone to sleep. What if I play it backwards, and you play the 4 notes backwards and it wakes someone up and it works? And you're like, oh my word,
That is cool.
That is like,
don't need to go to work today. So, wife, I've done enough.
it just felt satisfying working that out for myself. And then I know, Rich, you've spoken before about Oberdin. I love Oberdin.
Oh, yeah.
And it gave me that same feeling that I got from Oberdin, which is like, I'm really, really sad when I was finished it, because it's like, I am never going to play a game like that again. That mechanic was amazing once, and like, no one will ever do it again because it's been done, and everyone would just be like, you're just redoing Loom. And the same with Oberdin. It's like, you'll never get a game like that again. But it's those kind of unique mechanics are what I love about them, because you get that creativity in it.
So you just talked about modern games, and you talked about Steam. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to grab a drink, and then we'll come back, and Haikers is going to tell us all about his brand new Steam Deck.
I get to talk more. That's just what everyone wants.
Oh, well, you don't have to. I mean, like, we'll just send you home then. That's fine. You know, that is in... Look, you know, we talk about PSP and PS Vita. People might genuinely be like, oh, actually, a Steam Deck, I might want to buy one of them, you know. So,
it's a handheld that does things.
So, catch you in 2 minutes. So we're back, and we are going to be talking about an actual handheld, not these faux pas bullshit. Faux pas, not the right. You know what I mean? The wrong stuff, the bad PSP, PS Vita. Well, PS Vita is actually a legitimate handheld still in its own right, I think. Yeah. We'll probably come. Okay,
sort of.
That was a racing car that you just. When you listen back to that, you'll be impressed about how well you sound like you know, a racing car.
My disappointed noise.
So happy that's your disappointed noise. But in all seriousness, you know, like, whilst we've said, you know, it's great to still have these handhelds, and we are holding off a little bit in talking about like the Switch and things, you know, like the more sort of modern handhelds, because we're really sad that will bring to the end of us loving our PSP and PS Vita probably at some point, because we'll be like, well, it's been surpassed.
Bit shit now, isn't it?
Until you're not wrong, yeah. But we'll hold on to that for a while. But we do want to talk about a super awesome proper handheld that Haikers has bought recently. So, how about it, Haikers? What have you bought recently? And how much did it cost you in your soul? You know, and yeah, just tell us about all the features, and go for it.
First, this is this is like the grown-up equivalent of like the kid who's got the cool toy, and everybody gets to be friends just because they've got the cool toy. I think I have a Steam Deck. Let's you know,
hooray!
Hooray!
Applaud!
Big
Applaud!
reveal.
Right.
That was terrifyingly, like, that was on point.
Fiona! Hi! Fiona's back on
Fiona's
the pod.
back, Sunset's back. It's, you know, everyone's here for the round of applause.
The clapping, I was going to say the clapping works for Fiona walking into the room as well, so...
It's what I demand, actually. It's
Do we go again?
Every time it's
yeah, the first time around.
exhausting.
Here we go. Okay,
Right.
cool. Right, back to it. So, go for it, Haikers.
Yeah, so I have a Steam Deck. That's cool. Pod done.
And you are the cool kid, so...
Apparently I am. Although, given that we spent the bit before the podcast playing Euro Truck Simulator 2, I think, you know, all things are relative.
I thoroughly enjoyed my 50-mile-an-hour drive around the block in Hungary.
Never ever go to Hungary with Rich in a truck.
I managed to crash.
Are you somehow real life now?
Oh yeah, that's that's real.
That's the thing.
This is how they train
Remote
Teslas.
controlling.
Yes.
a truck.
When a Tesla's in self-drive mode, it's driven by the internet. Never self-drive a Tesla.
Some poor soul on a street corner in Budapest just going, "What the fuck?"
Why is that truck weeping? So the Steam Deck, which for anyone who is not in the know, is the latest piece of hardware from Valve, who are of the Steam fame. And if Steam is not famous for anyone who plays on PlayStation, for PC gamers, it will be relatively well known. It's essentially an online game platform. Steam is an online marketplace, one of the first ones, and probably one. It's got the biggest market share for PC. Kind of games distribution. It's got a big store network. It's like it's the main gig in town if you want to do that kind of thing. They also dabble in hardware, so they've released a couple of things in the past. But the Steam Deck is essentially a handheld console, not dissimilar to the Switch, with a kind of a screen in the middle. You can take it with you, and you can access your Steam library, which, if you're a PC gamer, can be considerable, because gosh darn it, don't those 99 pence games add up. It is, and that was for me. So in terms of my gaming history, I've always been a PlayStation person, never been an Xbox person. Like PC primarily, but my console has been a PlayStation. So I have had every iteration of the PlayStation up to the PlayStation 4. I am too tight to get a PlayStation 5 until 2 years before it's due to retire, when I will get one. But I got the Steam Deck essentially because the main problem I have with consoles is that I can never justify the outlay on the games, because the games always tend to be super expensive. Mm-hmm. They're like, if at launch a title will be anything up to 60 quid nowadays, which is a lot. And I get it. Game devs need to be paid. EA do not need to be paid, but they are on a mission to eat the entire world. And just what happens if we fill all of our offices with money? It's a good science experiment. What happens if there was more downloadable content? How much will someone pay for Dealy Boppers for their avatar?
At what point do you think EA tipped over? Is in for you? Because when you used to get an EA game and think this is going to be a really good sports game, for example, or it's going to be a really good game, and you think and you used to love EA, and then in your mind there was a point. There must be a point where everyone goes, "Oh, this is poison."
Oh, you know what? I actually have an answer for that.
Me too. I'm curious to hear yours.
I'm glad that they do, because
So mine is FIFA and the Ultimate Team stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Because when that first came out, kind of a cute idea. Build your own squad and all that. And it was as soon as they started crowbarring microtransactions in and all that kind of stuff. So I guess we're talking Xbox 360 era, tail end of,
as soon
kind
as you
of
pay for it on the internet.
Yeah.
I'd go before then, and it's something I don't know how I feel about this, because I'm going to say The Sims, the first Sims game, because that was the first game that I remember thinking another expansion pack? Why how many expansion packs are
so what is the developer called?
Maxis.
Thank you very much, Maxis. So were they owned by EA at that point, or was that did EA kind of go in at that? Because definitely, because we talked about it before the pod, Sims Vacation. I specifically remember that being an EA game. That is it must have been some point just after The Sims, but then obviously Maxis developed The Sims, didn't they? And I'm just thinking
at some point they were acquired, and I honestly I don't know, so I'm going to speculate wildly and say EA had their paws all over that, with no evidence to back it up. Don't Google it; it's true.
So that 2000, 2001 or something is that maybe from, I think, I remember when, I'm going to go around that era, just something a bit off about having a scratch and sniff FIFA 2001 PlayStation game, and you scratched it and you smelled like grass.
Yes.
You know a company's fucked when they're doing that, right? That isn't they are after you in a big way.
EA would like you to know they are doing just fine, and they are if you have any suggestions on how to cook £50 notes, they are wanting to hear it, because at the moment they're spending more in storage for their money than they are on anything else. They're doing extremely well. Microtransactions are an absolute poison. They're gambling. They should be absolutely banned from all forms of gaming. 100%, but they are so profitable, so people aren't going to do it until they are actually banned.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing that we are not talking about. But if
we
you
can talk about it a little bit. There's no reason why I can't talk about it a little bit. Like, as in, but like, I mean, people come into my shop and buy Roblox gift cards for their kids and stuff, and they're always like, oh, these are so expensive and stuff, and I'm like, don't do it. Just don't do it, man, because it's just like you're just funding some sort of bad industry somewhere, like as in your children want this thing that it's not good for them.
It's gambling. It's 100% gambling. Like, sorry, when I say it's gambling 100%, so add-on purchases are not gambling. You know what you're getting. If you know what you're getting, that's fine. I do question the ethics of putting downloadable purchases in game, but if you
know what
you're
doing in terms of like you know what you're going to get from it, aren't you?
Absolutely. The ones, it is the ultimate teams, it is the loot boxes that are banned in some jurisdictions or regulated like gambling because because you have a chance to get a thing, and the absolute nonsense distinction that they've drawn in the UK about loot boxes is that it's okay because you're not technically supposed to sell it for cash. Nonsense. People will sell, people will find a way to finance and money launder and do all sorts of things through FIFA Ultimate Team. So one of the things I've read, I've not played a FIFA game for a long time, but one of the ways to launder money there, if you ever see a bronze player who's on for 600 billion coins, that's probably because it's some kind of cash transaction that's going on. Somebody's saying, if you give me this many you give me 50 quid, and I will buy your bronze player for 60,000 gold coins, and that's the transaction that will go on, and that's how people get around it. So these things are gambling. These are products where you don't know what you're going to get. You can pump real money into the coins. The fact that you can't get real money legitimately out of the other side is nonsense. That doesn't affect you if you've got that same itch that these things are designed to scratch. They're designed to look like you're opening a pack of cards and you don't know what you're going to get out of it.
I was just football stickers and stuff.
I was just about to say.
I still get nostalgic for that stuff.
I was just about to say. So all I'm hearing is that I was effectively a solid gambler when I was trying to get that shiny Charizard.
Yep.
I was just nothing,
like Magic the Gathering cards and stuff like that. All of that.
I mean, I'm a D&D 5e fanboy. I love the way that Wizards has gone with that.
You just said lots of letters and numbers to me.
Rich knows what I'm talking about.
I know all too well.
Yeah. Get me back another time and I'll talk D&D with you and crossover video games. I will happily do that.
Rogue for life.
Yeah.
Look at you guys chortling away. Is it no
Look at Faz, he doesn't understand.
This guy would cast a fireball in the party, am I right?
I genuinely, I don't know what's going on, and that's fine. I like to learn new things, so that will probably be a pod that would be lovely, actually.
Just for a little flavour for everybody, though, I would like to point out that me and Haikers are sat opposite Faz on his own. It is a particularly vicious interview in here.
Yes, it is.
I'm asking the questions around here, all right?
Why did you think it was appropriate to wear shorts to your interview, Faz?
It's always appropriate to wear shorts. It annoys me so much that you cannot wear business shorts in some sort of fashion.
Business shorts.
But I get that you'd look like a twat, but I don't care. I'd be so much cooler. It's just not. And this goes back to when I was
hang on, business. I've seen the Postie wearing business shorts.
Yeah, postmen.
Yes.
Postmen are the only people that seem to get away with it, and
because their business involves being outside when it's. I was going to say extortionately hot. I was back on a year. So 25 degrees outside, 20 quid, please.
Yeah, but it could be 35 degrees inside, and you're not allowed to wear business shorts. What?
In the legal profession, it's better now because essentially you've got teams, and mostly meetings are by teams. No one can see. Well, very few people do. And we had a corporate question asked recently in our kind of anonymous Ask Anything, which was, "Can we wear shorts?" Yes. It says it in the policy.
Yeah,
read the policy.
Okay, so maybe I'm being just a bit too hasty to say that actually there's some places that would allow shorts. Yeah. So I'm going to start seeking out a pro short career. So, it's in short and short. So, Steam Deck. Also. Where were we?
Steam Deck. Yes, yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, go. And
just leave. Just leave.
Just saying the word "go" 3 times doesn't actually make anything happen.
You don't know that. Ewan Murray, not Ewan Murray. Murray Walker used to say it, didn't he, before the Formula One?
Oh, go.
Go. So that used to make them go. They didn't used to go until he said it, I would assume.
Yeah.
Formula 197 was a great game. So, thinking about this Steam Deck then, and obviously, so first time I've had my hands on it before the pod, felt great. It's quite a very big, bigger than the Switch. And it. So, what were you hosting your Steam membership on before that? If that makes sense. So, how long have you been a Steam member?
Hello, my name's James, and I've been a Steam user for at least 15 years. So I can't remember the first time I got Steam, but I do remember it was I had to sign up for it probably for something, and I resented
Half-Life
it.
2?
Probably Half-Life 2.
That was me. So guess.
Yeah, I suspect that was probably when I had to sign up for it, but I didn't buy the game from there. It was like back in the day, it was a platform. It was just like an overlay piece of software that would go. And I clearly resented it because when I came back to it, when I was just like, oh, all these games are on Steam and you can just get them off the internet, which probably was about, that was about 10-ish years ago. That started becoming a regular thing for me, I think. I realised that my the details I'd given them were false. And my last name was Why Do You Need This? Which was actually slightly creepy because it like literally said, like, I'd given them my first name and it was like, James, why do you need this at the top of the thing? And I was like, I don't know, Steve. Why do I need this? Why don't you tell me? And then I realised that I was just, as weird about data as I am now. As a 15-year-old or whatever. But yeah, so that was fun. But so yes, for a long time is the short answer to your question. But the platform is extremely useful now that they've got fast download speeds, etc. It's a library of games, so you purchase it once and you get access to it. There's so many arguments about whether that's a good or a bad thing. Technically, they could take your access away. As a lawyer, I'm a bit more relaxed about that because it's like, yeah, but if they did that, there's going to be a lot of lawsuits about, taking away things that people have paid for on digital services. There's got to be an alternative. But by the by, I've now got about 300 games on there, which if I think back to my PlayStation 1, when every game had to be on a disc, I maybe had like 20 or 30, and some of those were maybe not legitimate.
It's fine. You can say that on here. No one listens.
Because my brother got a chipped PlayStation 1. Nice. And you'd rent a game from Blockbuster, and then suddenly you want that game. Apparently. And PlayStation 2, which to be fair, again, I had about 20 games on pre-owned. That was coming back to CEX, and all of the kind of, I mean, for me it was Electronics Boutique, which then became Game, because Electronics Boutique sounds ludicrous and like it's from Blade Runner.
Great shop though.
I loved it. Yeah. It was great. And
in fact, some of my games still have EB written on the disc.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just like,
that's really cool.
Tell you what, I visited a friend in Australia a few years back, and they still have theirs.
Oh,
it was genuinely like travelling back in time.
I love when you go to like Canada or Gibraltar or something like it's sort of something that used to be part of the British Empire, and it's sort of like why do you have the shops we used to have 50 years ago? I don't understand that.
We found a CNA in Brussels.
Just what?
Incredible.
CNA used to have great floor carpet patterns that I would follow constantly when my mum and dad were like, oh, not my dad. My mum and dad was definitely not there. My mum was like shopping, and I'd just wander around on the spirals on the CNA carpet.
What is the betting that they have really good business shorts?
Yeah. Yeah. Shit.
Anyway, Steam Deck.
Next, yeah. But yeah, so what were you using Steam on? Just a general PC?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So it's a desktop PC, and as I say, I've always been a PC gamer. Shock horror, I've spoken for 6 billion hours about Monkey Island and point-and-click adventures that require a mouse. And lo and behold, I like those kind of games. I used to play real-time strategy games as well, like the Command and Conquers of this world, which back in
point and click, got it.
Back in the day, to steal Rich's catchphrase, if you had you pointed and you clicked, but if you did not have a mouse, and you're trying to do that on a D-pad nonsense. And those were the kind of games that we had, and I grew up with that. My brother is like big in. He's had an extremely successful career in tech and programming and stuff like that. So we just had computers.
He chipped his PlayStation. So,
he chipped his PlayStation.
That's successful.
Back when that was technically a good thing, rather than like, oh no, I've chipped my phone, which is a bad thing.
There's a bit of a PS5 missing.
Yeah.
The good bit.
It's like, our surface detection has detected that you've chipped your PS5. I'm returning to the store because you're not a careful enough owner. Which actually brings me beautifully onto something that I have actually been saying in a kind of weird roundabout way about what I love about love about the Steam Deck, which is it's a piece of hardware, which is I described it as being a Linux piece of hardware because it does have a Linux operating software. Operating system rather. Sorry, excuse me. Too many ciders. I've never actually used Linux because I'm slightly scared of it. But generally, the reputation that Linux has as an operating system is it's flexible. It relies on people kind of hacking it is probably a bit strong, but like kind of different people solving their own problems.
It's malleable.
It's malleable. That's an excellent word.
Thank you.
And I'm going to continue to use it. The malleability of the software and the Steam Deck generally kind of really revealed itself to me when I got the Steam Dock, which is the thing that plugs it into a TV. Essentially, it's not a great bit of kit. It's fine. It's some USB ports on a bit of plastic and a charger. It's fine. But and it didn't connect with my TV. It was coming up with all sorts of like weird noise and interference, it looked like I was plugging it into like, when anyone as people as old as me in this room will remember when you used to have like aerials in TVs and you plug it in and you get that kind of like what is black and white interference.
Yeah.
It had that. But on a on a modern TV, and I was like, that shouldn't be happening.
Retro.
Why is there noise?
Retro static.
Yeah. But then, and I was ready to basically, if I was giving it arbitrary scores, I'd be like, oh, this is a 4 out of 10, like whatever, chuck it out. But then you Google online, and it's like, oh, put the deck, so the console, put it into developer mode, and then switch it to desktop mode. And then when you do that, go into the advanced settings and see if you can toggle some of these options. And that was when that actually got me back round to it, because it was like it gave me the tools to fix my own problem. Mm-hmm. And I'm not massively tech savvy. I'm not about to go and code anything. I am too scared to use Linux, but I'm tech savvy enough to be comfortable that if I find a solution, I can Google my problem, I can find a solution, and I can implement that solution. Whereas tech nowadays doesn't trust you to do that.
Yeah, it's funny how often that actually makes you trust a product a bit more. Actually, that you can fix it yourself, like, and you 100%. Go because you're almost like, I guess if you're a normal human being, like most of the times you'll understand that things don't work perfectly, and then you go, well, if you let me fix you, like and quite easily, then you kind of go, well, I'm alright with that actually. Yeah. I'll be fine.
It's almost like and I always think the same with kind of mobile phones. It's like they don't trust you enough to let you go in and tinker with stuff, and it's like and I'm. Here's a random deep cut for one of your 4 listeners that's familiar with XKCD. Hi, Paddy. But there's an XKCD webcomic that essentially says like, do you want to do you want to continue to browse on the desktop site, or do you want to? Why not install our app so that you can get all of the functionality apart from being able to zoom and. And I sometimes feel like that with phones. It's just like, it just boxes you in kind of more and more. Consoles, similarly. If I had a problem with that with my PlayStation 4, no way in hell I could fix that.
Yeah.
Even the PlayStation 1, you need, like, literally, they're closed systems that need dev kits to access some of the more accessible things. So I really appreciated that about the Steam, that I was able to essentially fix my own problem, rather than just getting this stock response of like, oh no, your TV's not supported, it's too old, or it's a problem with the hardware, you need to send it back. Yeah. So that was good.
So after having it for a few weeks, how are you feeling about it being this portable PC in your pocket situation?
It's definitely not in my pocket. Like I am not a 90s skater. It is not in my pocket. It is
rain gauge.
Yeah, like if you it's like a 12-inch ruler. It's it's pretty chunky. It's got a carry case. It's that kind of thing. So it's definitely not. It's not portable in that sense. It marks you out as someone who wants to play games. It's not. It's not the kind of thing. It's not like a phone where you could be doing anything. But I'm happy with it. I've used it mostly at home, so I can't really vouch for it being on on public transport. I tried that today. Shout out Northern Rail, way to go!
There is a way to go when you're on Northern Rail.
Yes, yeah.
It's
alternative means.
No, there's always a way to go. Like,
To be
when
fair,
you get there, it feels like you're late.
Yeah. To be fair, like they, it wasn't Northern Rail that was on, but I did get on at Coach A. And they announced it's like if you want to get off at Horsforth, move to Coach K because the platform's not long enough. I feel like I walked to Horsforth. It was long. It was long, so I didn't have time to actually try it out. But there you go.
So, I know obviously you've been out a couple of weeks and things, but does it feel like a bit of a sort of an essential piece of kit going forward? Like, is it? I know no gaming, paraphernalia is necessarily essential, but as a PC gamer,
I wouldn't say it's essential. If you are a PC gamer who is perfectly happy having a PC that is set in place, it's not essential. If you care massively about graphics, frames per second, performance, no, not essential. It's not going to give you that. But what it does give you is the ability, and for me, it gives me the ability to, if I want to play like a silly platform game that I have on my Steam account, and my wife was watching something that I'm not fussed about on the telly, it gives me the ability to sit next to my wife and be in the same space and just enjoy Sewing Bee on the telly. Shout out Sewing Bee. But
we've had British Bake Off and Sewing Bee on this. This is really... This is where we're going with this now.
Yeah, text-based Sewing Bee would be like... I feel like Sewing Bee's hard enough without making it text-based. It's like... Add zip. You do not have a zip. Select your zip.
Throw zip.
One of the contestants saying, "What's a verb?" It's just, it'll be...
a verb is it's an Italian fold that you do in the fabric before you, full disclosure, run out of any kind of sewing bands.
We haven't had any arbitrary scores, actually, on this so far.
Let's give the Steam Deck an arbitrary score out of 10, then.
So far, I mean, you've had it a few weeks, but, it'd be nice to...
So, arbitrary score, where 10 is life-changing, if I understand your...
Basically. Pretty much, yeah. Which is why Wipeout's so close. Yeah.
Arbitrary score. I would give the Steam Deck so far an 4.2 radians. 8. Give it 8. Yeah. Because I think it's not life-changing. It has made certain things, like it's made some games more accessible. I am probably, realistically, I'm not, the purpose I've wanted it for is always to be able to play my Steam games in a different location than my PC. Yeah. I'm probably going to use it mostly at home. I'm not going to use the full functionality. Mm-hmm. But I think it is good at what it does. It knows what it does, and it also gives you the tools to, it gets a big boost for me for being able to go in and fix your own problems, change controller setups and key bindings and do all this stuff. Like, literally, if you plug it into the dock, you can have a wireless mouse and keyboard, so you can use your TV as like a PC essentially, and you can put it in desktop mode. You can use it as a PC. You can hack it so that you can watch Netflix or Disney Plus or NFL Game Pass, or whatever the hell that's called these days, DAZN or something like that. DAZN. Looking forward to the annual tradition of the first game Wipeout.
Where the annual tradition of paying lots of money for DAZN.
Take my money to not show me American football, DAZN. Thank you very much. I think I'm probably legally safe because I don't think I've actually remembered the company correctly. So
we should really scrunch into this 5 minutes, sort of the last 5 minutes of the pod. Two things. That obviously we met playing American football, all three of us, and you still play American football to some extent, more than we do.
I have been this year. Yes,
exactly.
That counts.
But you have the ability to, and
that's never been true. Carry on.
And it was just really funny when you said that before that about the escape room called the Ghost of the Samurai, and I was like, oh, this pod feels like the Ghost of the Lead Samurai.
Shout out to the Lead Samurai.
They don't want our shout out. We are the kiss of death. Yeah. You will get injured, horribly injured.
And the second thing I want to say reference was just that you are, like you say, and we will come back to this pod being about PlayStation and how you've said that you have owned every PlayStation. I want you to give a little bit of maybe an answer to what's been the best PlayStation for you that you've enjoyed.
PlayStation 2.
Yeah,
PlayStation 2.
That was went quicker than I wanted it to be.
All right. Well, okay. I can give you my working on that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
So PlayStation 1, I have such great memories of. It was my brother's console. Because as I've said, I've got an older brother who is kind of tech savvy enough to chip it because I didn't. I was below the legal age of criminal responsibility. There is nothing that I have responsibility for.
Always a great excuse.
Exactly. But no, like, so the PlayStation 1, I've got great memories of Tekken 3. Like, how on earth did I know that King was supposed to be a wrestler back when it was just blocks? How do you see that? Locking the butler in the freezer in Tomb Raider 3. All those kind of good things, but I was too young to properly like appreciate it. I think I wasn't very good at the games. PlayStation 2 was the first console that was mine, and if I think about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 was the one that that I owned, and that was the first one that went sort of vaguely open world. You were still on your skateboard, but you went around and accepted quests. Hark, Bam Margera has a quest for you. You must be abusive to these four maligned individuals. Whatever.
Very accurate.
Yeah, I know, right? Just go and make these people's days worse. That's what you want to do. That's really what you want to do. That was the first console that was like mine, and I kept that for a long time. I've got excellent memories from university. FIFA 10. Like, before microtransactions were a thing, FIFA 10 is the only FIFA game that I've got close to completing career mode. It got to the stage that, because I think in those days it finished after 15 years. No idea what happens now. But I got to year 13 where like your player graphs of like, their progression, it wasn't like it kept going past it. It was like, nope, they die. After this, it's the apocalypse. Nobody gets better after 2025 or whatever it was, which, hey, actually feels quite pricey. Shout out to the climate crisis. And
a lot of shout outs to bad things.
Are there any other kind?
The problem is people can't see me doing my fake like.
I'm really enjoying the little fist pump to go with the shout outs.
Yeah, it's good.
You do live in a hippie cult. You're right.
I do. The greater good. And then PlayStation 3 almost came too late. So that was when I moved to Leeds. I got a PlayStation 3 several years after it. It was cool to own one. And I had that's probably as one of my least favorite PlayStations. I think just because. The games that I had, I didn't get much out of them. I think Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, I finished that one. Borderlands, I played it, and I was just like, I really want a mouse for this, and got it on Steam. Yeah, for example, and it was that kind of deal. PlayStation 4, I like it, but mostly, honestly, it gets 99% of its use as a freaking DVD or Blu-ray player, and as like Netflix, Disney, and Game Pass / DAZN / ESPN, the Ocho. Whatever it is these days.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's funny because the PS3 is it's almost, I think, like maligned. And I'm a big PS3 apologist. And like you said about like PS2, like using it at university and stuff. And like I invested when I was at university, like to get my PS3, like pretty much day one. And I remember like the second year of university and third year of university, it was like there was a lot of PS3 play. But almost actually, funnily enough, like the second year of university was like PS3 play, and then the Wii. It was like three, and it was almost like PS3 is always like a bit of an afterthought, and it's a bit sad, really. But it must be kind of like enough people say it's not the one. Do you know what I mean? Where PS2 is obviously, like you said, your choice of. Probably...
They were almost, and here's what James reckons. This is not backed up by any statistics, but it feels almost as though, particularly for people my age, PlayStation 2 was like. It was so good. It was so successful that there was no reason to upgrade because the games were so good. Yeah. And like I've got such good memories of being in university playing Guitar Hero with like people that I shared a house with. I remember buying that as a present to myself because I passed first year exams or something like that. And then drunken nights with because it was still cheap to get like multi-taps and have 4 controllers. drunken playing SmackDown versus Raw with custom wrestlers that was everybody. Hell in the Cell at like 2 a.m. with like your housemates with just a crate of cheap beer was just it was just great. And then PlayStation 3 was fine. Yeah. It was like there was nothing wrong with it. The games, I enjoyed some of the games, brother. Like I enjoyed the Assassin's Creed and everything like that. But it just doesn't. Part of it, and do you know what? Bringing it all the way back around, part of it comes to like nostalgia. Because if you're giving arbitrary scores, like Monkey Island for me is a 10 because it was life changing. And if I could bottle the feeling I got from playing a game more than actually like the game itself, just the feeling I got from that game, that is the one that I would want to keep and want to replicate. And similarly, the PlayStation 2 for me, it's not the games necessarily, it's not the hardware, it's the memories, it's that place and time that it takes me back to.
That's all it is, isn't it? That's what we're trying to talk about in this pod, really, isn't it? Like, that
100%.
what part of your gaming life made you feel great? And and it's nice to talk about those. So I think that wraps it really well. So thank you for being here this week.
Thank you for having me.
We've really appreciated it. And yeah, we'll probably look forward to having you on at some point to tell me what a D&D is.
Hey, Faz does D&D is going to be that's going to be fun.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
That was loud. I apologise.
Broke the mic. Cool. Right. Thank you very much from me.
I'm
nodding at you, Rich.
I'm here too, yeah. I was thinking like, PS3 and Xbox, it all became the same thing, isn't it? At least PS2 was different. And then, yes, hello, here we are at the end. Bye.
Bye, guys.